Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to Weekly Wildlife Wisdom. Now, so far, I've been your host, Zero Yeti, and happy Dinosaur Day. This time around, we're going to be just doing something a little bit different, as previously for Dinosaur Day, I've looked at specific formations that had dinosaurs and examined some of the flora and fauna within it, such as like the Morrison and the Witton formation. But this time around, I figured it'd be neat to look back at the history of dinosaurs and like prehistoric reptiles and look back at some of the first named and described scientifically. Specifically, the creatures showcased at the Crystal Palace Park in London. Now, we've already covered a few creatures that were in the Crystal Palace Park, such as Mosasaurus and Plesiosaurus. Specifically, let's look at the Mesozoic section and just cover 7 creatures that are on showcase there. Starting with Hylaeosaurus, which is an extinct genus of basal nodosauran and chylosaurian dinosaur, which lived throughout what is now the British Isles during the Valginian stage of the early Cretaceous period, some 140 to 132 million years ago. The first Hylaeosaurus fossils were discovered in West Sussex in July of 1832 after a gunpowder explosion had demolished a quarry face in the Tailgate Forest, and several of the boulders freed showed bones of a saurian. Fossil collector Gideon Mantell purchased these fossils and discovered they all belonged to a single partial skeleton, which represented the most complete non-avian dinosaur skeleton known at the time. Mantell at first was eager to assign this find to either Iguanodon or Megalosaurus. However, his colleagues William Clift and John Edward Gray were quick to point out that these remains represented distinct separate species, leaving Mantell to name the animal Hylaeosaurus, derived from the Greek hylaeos, meaning of the wood, claiming the name Hylaeosaurus meant forest lizard, after the Tailgate Forest, or Tilgate Forest, in which it was discovered. Later, when Richard Owen first established the Dinosauria, and thus created the term dinosaur in 1842, Hylaeosaurus was one of the 3 genera he used to establish the group, alongside Megalosaurus and Iguanodon. Several species of Hylaeosaurus have been named over the years, but only the type species H. armatus isn't considered valid. Reaching around 16 feet in length, 2 tons in weight, many details of what Hylaeosaurus would have looked or acted like are still a mystery. However, we do know that this basal nodosaurian would have been a squat quadrupedal dinosaur with a covering of bony plates and spikes down its back and sides, possessing a strong, sturdy tail that may have had spikes but lacked a club. It inhabited river deltas and wetlands, living either alone or in small groups as it browsed low-lying vegetation. Next up, we have Pterodactylus, which is an extinct genus of pterosaur which lived throughout Europe and Africa during the Tithonian stage of the late Jurassic period, around 152 to 145 million years ago. The type specimen was described by the Italian scientist Cosimo Alessandro Collini in 1784, based on a fossil skeleton that had been unearthed from the Solnhofen limestone of the Ichthyosaurus in Bavaria. This gives Pterodactylus the honor of being the first pterosaur known to science, although there was much debate as to what the creature actually was, with many inferring that it was a type of prehistoric bat or bird, or that it was actually a marine creature whose wings were actually flippers. Further research and discoveries eventually confirmed Pterodactylus as a flying reptile, but continuing incomplete knowledge and understanding of the group during the 19th century resulted in many discoveries being attributed to Pterodactylus as different species of the genus. This was further unhelped by the fact that Pterodactylus individuals varied considerably with age and sex, resulting in many specimens being classified as a different species. Today, Pterodactylus antiquus is considered to be the only valid species. Reaching around 2 feet in length, 3.5 feet, with a 3.5-foot wingspan, Pterodactylus was a fairly small pterosaur, sporting wings formed by a skin and muscle membrane that stretched from its elongated fourth finger to its hind limbs. The skulls of adult Pterodactylus were long, thin, and straight, and sported a low crest which extended from the antorbital fenestra to the back of the skull. Additionally, its jaws were lined with around 90 narrow conical teeth, and it possessed a fairly large throat pouch. In life, Pterodactylus would have acted as a diurnal generalist predator, feeding upon invertebrates, fish, amphibians, small mammals, small reptiles, early birds, and younger and small non-avian dinosaurs as it traveled throughout the island chain that would later become Europe. Next up, we have Teleosaurus, which is an extinct genus of marine teleosaurid crocodiliform, which lived throughout what is now Europe during the Middle Jurassic period, some 174 to 163 million years ago. Teleosaurus remains have been known to science since at least 1758, although the scientists who first found the remains believed they belonged to crocodiles or alligators. The name Teleosaurus wouldn't arise till 1820 when Jean Vincent Felix Lamarck's sent specimens of what he called Crocodilus catomensis to Georges Cuvier, who recognized it as a distinct and unique creature he dubbed Teleosaurus, officially describing and naming the species as Teleosaurus catomensis in 1824. The second species attributed to Teleosaurus, being T. someringi, was named in 1829, and over the next 40 years, nearly a dozen new Teleosaurus species would be erected. However, today, only the original Teleosaurus catomensis is still considered valid. Reaching around 9 to 15 feet in length and 300 to 600 pounds in weight, it sported a long, slender body with short legs and a strong, possibly fluked tail, which would have helped propel the animal through the water. In many ways, Teleosaurus was the Jurassic's equivalent to a gharial, including possessing a long but very thin set of jaws that were lined with lots of small, thin teeth. These jaws were perfect for snatching fish from the water, as their thin form experienced reduced resistance from opening and closing while moving through the water, something which increased the speed at which they could open and close their jaws. Where Teleosaurus and modern gharials differentiate is their ecosystems in which they inhabit. While modern gharials dwell in rivers and freshwater lakes, Teleosaurus was a marine animal, which inhabited coastal waters, particularly in and around lagoons, atolls, and small islands, occasionally even venturing into the open ocean. Here, Teleosaurus would have fed upon fish and vertebrates, alongside creatures such as sharks, turtles, plesiosaurs, ichthyosaurs, pliosaurs, and other marine crocodiliforms. Next up, we have Iguanodon, which is an extinct genus of iguanodontian ornithopod dinosaur, which lived throughout what is now Eurasia during the late Jurassic and early Cretaceous periods, some 155 to 122 million years ago. The exact discovery of Iguanodon has become something of a popular story, but with successive retellings, some of the details have become a little blurred. Gideon Mantell was a practicing obstetrician whose wife, Mary Ann, is said to had discovered the first teeth in Aquarium Whitman's Green, Sussex, while he was visiting a patient in 1822. However, Gideon Mantell himself later stated in 1851 that it was he who had found the original teeth. Regardless, initially the teeth were a secondary concern for Mantell, as he was more concerned about reconstructing the bones and theropod teeth of a creature he found which he believed to belong to a giant crocodile, setting the herbivorous teeth alongside as belonging to a different yet equally massive reptile. In 1822, the herbivore teeth were submitted to the Geological Society of London, but the response was not positive, as the members declared the teeth to belong to either a rhinoceros or possibly a fish. Just over a year after this, in 1823, Charles Linnell showed some of the teeth to Georges Cuvier, who at the time first reached the same conclusion as the Geological Society, but not without some doubt. In 1824, after describing Megalosaurus, William Buckland visited Mantell to study his collection of bones and realized immediately that Mantell had a creature that appeared to be similar to Megalosaurus, which prompted Mantell to again send the herbivore teeth to Cuvier, who confirmed to Mantell that the teeth were indeed reptilian. With the help of Samuel Stutchbury, Mantell recognized they resembled those of an iguana, and he decided to name his new animal Iguanodon, or iguana tooth, from iguana and the Greek odon, meaning tooth, in 1825. Over the next 2 centuries, over 24 species would be assigned to Iguanodon. However, most of these are now considered to be genre in their own right, and today only Iguanodon, Burnus tarensis and Iguanodon galvensis are considered valid. Reaching 26 to 43 feet in length and 2.5 to 3.5 tons in weight, Iguanodon were bulky herbivores that could shift from bipedality to quadrupedality. They had large, tall, but narrow skulls tipped with toothless beaks, and these jaws possessed teeth like those of iguanas, but much larger and more closely packed. By far the most distinct feature is the large thumb spikes, which the animals used in combination with their long prehensile fifth fingers to forage for food, as well as use it as a weapon to defend themselves against predators. In life, Iguanodon would have inhabited semi-arid coastal regions similar to today's Mediterranean Sea, traveling in large herds and feeding upon horsetail cycads and conifer trees. Next up is Mastodonsaurus, or Mastodonsaurus. This extinct genus of temnospondyl amphibian lived throughout what is now Eurasia during the Anacinian and Landian of the Triassic period, some 247 to 237 million years ago. The first remains of Mastodonsaurus consisted of a broken tooth, which were uncovered and described by J.F. Jaeger in 1828, who dubbed the animal Mastodonsaurus, meaning breast-toothed lizard, after the unusual shape of the tooth. However, as time went on, Jaeger and others would find more substantial remains, including more teeth, vertebrae, parts of the forelimb, several skulls, and even a few nearly complete specimens, which showed that the teeth of the animal proved to be fairly standard for amphibians. Over the years, a large number of species have been attributed to the genus Mastodonsaurus. However, in 2007, re-examination of the genus found only M. jaegerini, M. gigantus, and M. torvis to be valid. Mastodonsaurus reached around 13 to 20 feet in length, with their large triangular heads making almost a third of their entire body length. These massive heads sported a pair of large, well-developed eyes midway up, and jaws that were lined with conical teeth, and two large tusks that pointed up from the tip of the lower jaw and fit through openings in the palate near the nostrils on the upper jaw, emerging out the top of the skull when the animal's jaw was closed. The body was large and rotund, the limbs were greatly reduced in size, and the tail, while short, was strong and wide, allowing for the animal to decently traverse it throughout its freshwater riverine wetland home, as it hunted for fish, invertebrates, and other amphibians. Next up is Ichthyosaurus, which was an extinct genus of Ichthyosaur and the type genus of the order Ichthyosauria, which lived throughout what is now England, Belgium, Germany, Switzerland, Portugal, and Indonesia during the late Triassic and early Jurassic periods, some 205 to 185 million years ago. While the first complete Ichthyosaurus fossils were discovered in England by Mary Anning in the early 19th century, the name Ichthyosaurus was first used by Charles Conging in 1818, but was not used in a formal scientific description, with the earliest described ichthyosaur being Proteosaurus by James Edward Home in 1819 for a skeleton which is now attributed to Temnodontosaurus plateodon. Henry de la Becque and William Conybeare in 1821 considered Ichthyosaurus to have taxonomic priority over Proteosaurus and named the species Ichthyosaurus based on Anning's specimen. During the 19th century, almost all fossil ichthyosaurs were attributed to Ichthyosaurus, resulting in the genus in having over 50 species by 1900. However, today only 6 are considered valid, those being I. communis, I. breviceps, I. conybeare, I. anningae, I. larkinae, and I. somerstensis. Measuring around 10 feet in length, Ichthyosaurus was relatively small when compared to other ichthyosaurs, possessing the familiar characteristic fleshy dorsal fin on their back, as well as a large caudal fin. Ichthyosaurus is distinguished from other ichthyosaurs by having a wide forefin and 5 or more digits with an anterior digital bifurcation. In life, Ichthyosaurus would have been a social, visually oriented, fully aquatic predator, which uses large, well-developed eyes to scan the water for prey, such as fish and squid, as well as to search for predators such as sharks, marine crocodiles, and pliosaurs, in addition to using him to track and communicate other pod members of its same species. And the final animal, but last but certainly not least, is Megalosaurus, which is an extinct genus of large carnivorous theropod dinosaur which lived throughout what is now Europe during the Middle Jurassic period some 174 to 163 million years ago. Although it only exists in drawings, what is thought to be the first fragment of Megalosaurus consisting of a partial femur was discovered in 1676 from a limestone quarry in Oxfordshire by Professor Robert Plot, who, due to the unprecedented nature of the find, declared it to belong to a biblical giant. In 1763, the bone was given the name Scrotum humanum by Richard Brooks due to the rather crass yet accurate appearance of the end of the bone to a human scrotum. This name and description was never formally accepted by any scientific body, but did prompt Rev. William Buckland to begin amassing various other remains from that same Oxfordshire quarry, including a piece of the right lower jaw, a thigh bone, ribs, some pelvises, a foot bone, and several vertebrae. After years of study, Buckland realized these specimens all belonged to the same species of giant reptile, which he named Megalosaurus, meaning great lizard, in 1824. In 1842, Megalosaurus was one of 3 genera on which Richard Owen found the clade Dinosaur on, and marks Megalosaurus as the first non-avian dinosaur to be formally described. Over the following centuries, over 50 species would be classified as Megalosaurus. However, due to nearly all of them having been determined to belong to other taxa, this left only the original Megalosaurus bucklandia as valid, reaching around 20 feet in length and 1,500 pounds in weight. Megalosaurus was amongst the mid-Jurassic Europe's largest predators. It had a long tail, strong, stout legs, robust body, short yet muscular arms, a large head, and was equipped with long, curved teeth. In life, Megalosaurus would have inhabited tropical forests, wetlands, and coastlines, feeding upon fish, invertebrates, amphibians, aquatic reptiles, and other dinosaurs as it hopped around the island chain that at the time constituted Europe. As always, take care to my guys, gals, non-binary pals, and check out the Friends of the Crystal Palace website if you have the chance. It's a really fantastic read.